Hello and welcome to another video, Koa Clash. So the last couple of videos we made were tier list, card ranking lists, movies and so on. And now we're gonna move from cards to decks. Yes, this video is gonna be about archetype decks in the game. And there's a little bit discussion about how many archetypes are actually existing in Clash Royale at the moment and so on. And we are gonna talk a little bit about that, discuss a little bit about the different archetypes. Yes, and also we're gonna, when we talk about these archetypes, talk about and show some decks, some classic decks, some newer decks that fit the specific archetype and that you and me, all of us can face and face quite often on ladder. So, cause you might say, why a movie about archetypes? Why? And I'm like, why not? But also by showing these decks that are very popular on ladder, some of them you might know what will be coming against you. You might know every card of the 8 cards in the opponent's deck, and then it might give you an advantage when you play against them. I'm specifically not a huge fan of net decking, but I never done it. But I can see why people do it. A lot of people are net decking, and this can give you an advantage if you know, oh, this deck I meet is the 2.6 Hog Rider deck, for example. So I know it has these 8 cards. So now I know what I'm gonna face up against and I can beat it. Boom, 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 boom. A lot of talk. Let's head into the more exciting part and start with the three classic archetypes, deck archetypes. So there's no discussion really about these 3 archetypes. Everybody's like, yeah, there are 3 classic deck archetypes, and let's just start with the first classic deck archetype that I'm gonna talk about, and the first one is called Beatdown. So each archetype has a different strategy and a different win condition, or even more than one, and that is what makes each archetype kind of specific or unique. And Beatdown, the win condition, and when I talk about win condition, I'm talking about cards that only or primarily targets tower. So the win condition in Beatdown is the giant, goblin giant, the golem, the lava hound, the royal giant, and sometimes they're compared with paired with another win condition, for example, the lava loon deck or the lava hound with the balloon. And sometimes with a win condition-ish or a card that's gonna help you win a strategy. For example, the giant Sparky deck or the goblin giant Sparky deck and so on. So the strategy about Beatdown is using one of these very, very heavy cards and bringing the fight to the opponent's side. So when you start the game, Clash Royale, and get introduced to the game, you actually the first deck that you learn in training camp is a Beatdown deck, where you have a giant and there are some archers behind and you have arrows to support that. So that's the general strategy. You want a big fellow in front, kind of tanking the attack and also reaching the opponent's tower and knocking down the tower, beating it down, as it says, beat down. And you want some spells and some creatures to help that push. So the strategy is making a push from your end or side of and then take it to the opponents in a huge push. So Beatdown is more or less a chunky fellow, as I said, where you take the fight on the opponent's side. And the deck that I'm showing now that are not as popular as some of the other decks that are popular in ladder right at the moment, but I have experience meeting it once in a while, is this golem deck. So this golem deck, as you can see, is only one win condition, and it's the very expensive golem for 8 elixir, and you just the way to win and use this deck is to put the golem down, preferably when there's double elixir, and then just make this giant huge push supporting this golem, reaching the opponent's tower and winning that way. Okay, so the next classic deck archetype is the control deck. So the control deck wants to, as the name says, control how the battle, the field is playing out. So very important strategy or feature within the control deck is to have a defensive tower, most often, such as the Infernal Tower, maybe the Tesla Tower, the Tombstone, and so on. And as you counter the opponent's push, then with the remaining troops you have, you want them to win as a counter push, and win conditions that are quite popular with the counter push and this control deck is, for example, the Hog Rider, the Battle Ram, and the Graveyard. And also a way to win also is maybe putting, and quite popular as well, putting the legendary card Miner in front of your D push, yes, or counter push, as you can, and chipping away the tower. So that's a way to win with this deck, with this archetype deck, yes, is to counter your opponent's push and then fastly ahead, boom, creating a counter push, and then get a little bit of chip damage, and then continues doing that. Control decks also, certain spells are quite used at the control decks, and that Zero that of course controls the game for you. Especially the Tornado are quite popular and offers a lot of control and King Tower activation, so on, and poison as well to kill or counter opponent's buildings or horde and so on, and maybe even a freeze for your counter push or in graveyard deck. So some spells that are very often seen in the control decks. A very popular deck also in the pro scene at the moment is this graveyard deck, also called Splash Yard, where you play defensively and with your Baby Dragon and maybe with your Dark Knight that still have some HP left, and then play the graveyard offensively as they are crossing the bridge, and that way you can win. So the thing with the control deck is actually it counters the archetype deck that is called Beatdown. So the last and third classic deck is called the Siege. So the Siege is where you have these long-range buildings such as the Expo, the Modar, and spawner buildings as well, continuously shooting, locking onto towers or poking the opponent towers. So you want to place them at the bridge or close to the bridge, and then they lock onto the enemy's towers and start shooting them. Spawners as well, as I said. So spawner is also kind of a siege where you put a lot of buildings such as the furnace or the goblin hut that keeps spawning creatures that slowly but surely poke away at the enemy's tower. So the strategy with the siege deck is that most of your offense actually is on your side, so you force the opponent to play aggressively in order to try to stop your Expo or Modar, and sometimes they are paired with other win cards or strategies, such as the miner with the Modar, and this miner Modar bait kind of deck, I'm gonna talk a little bit later about bait decks, is also a way and to win, and quite popular on ladder that you will meet once in a while. So that was the 3 first classic deck archetypes. Yes. So the thing with Siege, it get countered by Beatdown, but often counters Control. Yes. Great, you got it. So those are the classic 3 deck archetypes where people don't really argue but all agree, okay, these are archetypes. The next 4 the deck archetypes or sub-deck archetypes I'm gonna mention is by some called, yes, this is a archetype itself, and some it says no, it's a sub-archetypes, and no says no, this is actually this archetype, this classic archetype. And the first one I'm gonna talk about is Cycle, and the Cycle deck archetype is about having very low cards, and so you can cycle quickly through your really good defensive or win condition cards. So it's all about having small spells and also minions, creatures, whatever you call it. So you can quickly, so very cheap elixir deck cost, so you can quickly rotate or cycle into what you need. So cards that are very good at cycling, that doesn't maybe seem so strong just like the card alone, as I mentioned in some of my tier list videos, but actually quite strong and feels quite strong in decks, certain decks, and are used very much by professional and top players, are the Skeletons, the Ice Spirit, the Ice Golem, and then some cheap spells. Yes. So the strategy with this is, as I said, cycle quickly to get your win condition, and that's why this archetype or maybe archetype could be an archetype. So let's just throw the first one of 2 decks. I'm actually gonna show you this. The first is called the 2.6 Hog Rider Cycle deck. So people could say, no, this is actually a control deck because I have a defensive building. I'm all about stopping your push and then putting the Hog Rider in front. But people that are for that this is an archetype is no, it's all about cycling your Hog Rider so you can play your Hog Rider as many times as possible. Always Hog Rider, so the opponent doesn't have the counters for the Hog Rider in hand and will play some weird cards. Another cycle deck that's quite popular and very strong at the moment, let's see if Expo is gonna get nerfed or not, but it's the 2.9 Expo deck. So this is again the small cheap cycle cards. It's only elixir cost, as the deck is called, 2.9 Expo deck. So it's all about getting that Expo, protecting it with a Tesla tower, and then just locking on the enemy's target, and then just rip tower, gone, bye when it has a full duration pretty much on the enemy's tower. Very popular on high ladder, and it's pretty annoying to play against. Yes. So the thing is with this is you might say, well, how is this it's a cycle deck? Yes, but it's also a siege deck because it's the Expo where you put it on your side and then it targets the tower. But then people could say, no, it's also control because you got the Tesla and so on and so on. But I would say, I feel like that the cycle archetype, as I will call it, is an archetype. On that note, we're going to move on to the next discussed archetype, which is the bridge spam archetypes. Those are where the way to win are often spread with more win conditions, 2 or 3, and not even win condition cards. Of course, there's the battle ram and maybe a Hog Rider, but also these very aggressive charge cards such as the Prince, the Bandit, the Dark Prince, and the Ram Rider, and so on. So the strategy about this archetype is playing defensive. For example, the deck that I'm gonna show now, the Pekka Bridge Spam deck is where you use the P.E.K.K.A. defensively, and then you start putting pressure on both lanes by throwing aggressive charge minions on the opposite side where you defend. So if you defend with the P.E.K.K.A. on the left side, and as the P.E.K.K.A. moves towards, you quickly put boom a bandit or a battle ramp or a dark prince on the other side. So it is about, as it's called, bridge spam, spamming the bridge with these aggressive types. So again, the opponent doesn't really have counters to all these and can't really cope with all this pressure. So that was the second new archetype, and it's very popular, and you will see this deck a lot. When I played last season, or this season, September season at least, when I laddered from 5,300 trophies to 6,000 and more, the bridge spam deck was everywhere. It was like 9 or 8 out of 10 matches bridge spam, P.E.K.K.A. bridge spam. Like, there are different variants, of course, of all these decks I'm showing, but that was boom, 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 boom all the time. Yeah, very popular deck. You're definitely gonna see that unless they make big changes. We shall see. So the next archetype, the third one, is the bait, the spell bait archetype, and you're probably already familiar with the lock bait deck. I talked a lot about my tier list videos, but it's very popular in ladder as well. So the idea is having different sort of cards that get hard countered by a single spell, such as and let's just put the first deck up there, the lock bait deck, this classic lock bait that's very popular that you see, where you have, for example, the princess, you have the goblin gang, you have maybe rascals, the dart goblin, and of course, very important, the win condition, the spell is the goblin barrel. Boom, on the tower, chip damage, and so on. And again, people might say, well, it has the infernal tower. It is a control deck where you just poke once in a while. But to me, again, it feels like this is a archetype in itself. But people can and will argue, no, it's just a control deck. So that is the lock bait. There are also other spell decks out there. There's, for example, where you wanna bait the. I'm not gonna show these decks. They are not very popular, but you might still just know knowledge to you, so you become smarter, a clever player. Yes. So therefore, I'm gonna talk about the sap bait, where the opponent might have a Sparky and also the Infernal Dragon and bats and other smaller minions, where you all get countered by sap, so you don't have sap enough to counter all these. And another spell bait deck could be the fireball spell, where you have the magical archers, the barbarians, the flying machine, the royal hawks, that all are hard countered by the fireball spell. Also, maybe poison spell. I wouldn't maybe say like there's a poison bait deck. Maybe that's not what they call, but spawner decks, for example, where you want to bait, or elixir, where you use the elixir building, where you don't want your opponent to throw poison at a specific building or targets, but you want them to throw it on something else. Of course, there might be a few out there, but I wouldn't call them poison spell bait. So that is the bait deck archetypes. Moving on to the last one, and this can maybe be a little bit more discussed. Yep, and it's called maybe a little bit different. It's called like the split push, the dual lane pressure, a lot of different names, but now my head is empty, but you can, nothing comes to my mind, but you can check it out yourself. The point with this is it was introduced when the Three Musketeers was introduced in the game, so it's where you're splitting units that can't be split at the back or in the middle, so they like move to different lanes. So it could be, as I said, the Three Musketeers, even like the Minion Horde, the Barbarians, the Royal Hawks. So you just continuously spread units and have a double push going, or split or dual lane push at the same time. So another card that's also the essence of the dual lane push archetype is the semi-new card Royal Recruits, where you can put them at the back of your tower and make 3 Royal Recruits go to each side, and then creating a pressure. This card actually had a little bit of shown on the pro scene in the West and Sudden decks, and is kind of, as I said, the essence also of this archetype, but shouldn't be paired. That's what I was trying to say, yes, with the Three Musketeers, because that seems super expensive, but yep. So it's called the Bridge Bam. You might not get confused with the Bridge Bam, because it's not putting aggressively the cards at the bridge, but it's more in the back or in the middle, where you split them and just pretty much simultaneously have a push going at each lane. Luckily, that's the Three Musketeer was nerfed and not as strong, because this was very, very annoying archetype to play against when it was super strong. But there's still more variants of this archetype. So I would, and at the end here, yes, I talked a lot, and I will keep talking and keep spamming you with new videos probably. But those are the 7 deck archetypes that are out there at the moment. Some people might say no, there's also a poke and other stuff. So, but I would say 7 at the moment. And maybe with the new, let's just quickly talk about here at the end, the new card, the Elixir Golem, that costs 3. It breaks, the 1 Elixir Golem breaks onto 2 smaller Elixir, that then breaks onto 4 small Elixir puffs. And when you kill them, you will get 4 Elixir, 1 Elixir per 1. So maybe a new archetype is coming where you feed Elixir to the other person. It might seem bad, but I actually think the Elixir Golem would be quite strong. But boom, who knows, more archetypes might be coming soon, and you might join the discussion. This is an archetype, no it's not. But there are 3 classic and 4 new, in my newer-ish in my opinion, and there might be more, who knows. Stay tuned for another videos. Have a nice day. Bye bye.